On February 15, 1974, over 1,000 Surrey teachers left their classrooms and schools, traveling to the Legislature in Victoria to protest the lack of action by the Provincial Government to reduce the large class sizes in Surrey and in the rest of the province. The results of that protest were profound.
It was a kind of heady time in teaching because there was initially a lot of support and people were really excited about the government.
I think it was the STA executive had a meeting with the Surrey School Board where talks broke down after the teachers demanded restoration of the cuts.
It is my belief that the board skewed the problems so that the NDP will be blamed for everything. Well, since the school board blamed the government, I suggested that we march to Victoria. It was a kind of shocking suggestion. And the board, they kind of laughed at us, they figured, you guys are crazy. And I could remember Betty McClurg, who was an NDP member. She came to me after and said, Lloyd, you're going to embarrass yourself, And I said, why? She said, the teachers will never agree to do that. And I said, you don't know how our teachers are angry with you guys. We're really angry.
So after that meeting, we got on the phone and we called an emergency STA general meeting at Queen Elizabeth Secondary the next afternoon.
It was a really big meeting. It was very impressive for a beginning teacher. I was 20 when I started in my first full-time job, and I had a grade 1 class. It was a class that kind of ranged in the course of the year from 36 to about 38 students. We were voting to walk out the next day. That was incredible.
It was, about as close to unanimous as you could have got.
I looked up and all the hands were up. And all against, there were 5 teachers against. I just felt goose pimples all over me,
And I got a call from an old friend, Lloyd Edwards, who was the president of the Surrey teachers. And he said, what are you doing? So I said, why? He said, because we're going on strike tomorrow. And I said, yeah, right. You're going on strike tomorrow. He said, yeah, we're taking the whole district out. We're shutting down, going to Victoria. And I may have laughed because I was so incredulous.
Buses were arranged, signs were being made, press releases, everything. Of course, most of us, I think, got on the 7 o'clock ferry. Not all the teachers could get on. There wasn't enough room. So they had to take a second ferry. And we arrived, I guess, somewhere around 10 o'clock, and then the rest of the teachers arrived at the Legislature buildings about 2 hours later. And it was good because they were, I think, just going into session at that time.
And we were invited to come to talk to the minister.
Mr. Hall, your MLA and I will be meeting with you. We'll be meeting with you, your executive, in the Oak Room in about 10 minutes.
And then finally, Wes Janzen got on the stage.
People knew Wes. He was a well-respected administrator.
He was aroused, he was agitated, and there he was on the stage doing battle with Ernie Hall. Mr. Hall, he said, just cool it, Wes, cool it. And Wes said, cool it. He says, that's the last thing I want to do. He says, I want you to know, and I want you to get the message that we're upset, and we're not going to take it. I think there was a feeling that there was safety in numbers. I mean, the strike was illegal. We had no legal grounds, but I think we knew that they couldn't fire us all.
Teachers bargained under the Public Schools Act. The Act and practice limited teachers to bargaining salary and bonuses. Anything else one usually thinks of with respect to bargaining, teaching and learning conditions, class sizes, issues of personnel, placement, and so on, were excluded.
There were lots of cameras, lots of stuff there. But I wondered at the minute how the government would take this, whether it was going to be taken as a hostile act or whether they were going to listen. And as we walked by the front of the legislature, looked up, and here's the Minister of Education at the window in her office going. So we entered the office and she said, "Dave wants to speak to you." So I said, "Well, we want a reduction in class size." And he said, "How about 1 per class?" So I said, "No, that's not enough. How about 2 or 2.5? And he said, "How about 1.5? I said, "That's good." He said, "So get those guys off our lawn?" And I said, "No." And I had this leaflet which says, "The New Democrats stand for a planned program," which can't be 1 year, obviously, "to reduce class size with the first priority the little children in their early years." So I read this to him and he says, "Well, what's that mean?" And I said, "Well, we want it for 3 years." We didn't have a plan for 3 years. I was talking smoke at that time. So he said, "Well, what's that mean?" I said, "Well, how about 1.5, and I knew we weren't going to get 3. I said, "How about 1.5, 2, 2?" And he said, "How about 1.5, 1, 1?" And I said, "How about 1.5, 1.5, 1.5?" Said it's a deal. Reached out, shook hands with Eileen, and he said, "Eileen, you're speaking in the House on Tuesday," I think it was. "Get up in the House and you can make that announcement on Tuesday, that we're doing a 3-year program to reduce class size by 1.5 a year for the next 3 years."
Over the next 3 years, government funding was provided to reduce class size across the province of British Columbia. Thousands of new teaching positions were created, and the teaching and learning in BC public schools were dramatically improved.
This was life-changing. It was a demonstration of what people could do together.
The awareness of the need to have the right to bargain everything that was associated with their work was growing. It changed the impressions about how willing teachers would be to do something to improve teaching learning conditions. It was a harbinger of things to come.